Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be around the world, and welcome to another Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram. Every week you get to pile right in here into the virtual office and ask whatever question you would like to ask. So glad you're all here and looking forward to today's round of questions. Let me invite you, if you haven't already, to ask a question if you have it. The link is there in the chat. Looks like we just have 5 questions in the queue today, so plenty of space for you to ask yours, and that link is waiting on you in the chat if you'd like to get your question in the queue. So we have a few things to talk about as we get going today. Maybe you saw this story. It's a big deal over in the UK regarding WordPress. It's the kind of the kind of press you don't want to have if you're a WordPress person, because it's often it's been presented in a number of different news sources as a WordPress error. And I mean, I guess technically that's correct, but they didn't set it up right. So anyway, the story is that a government agency, the Office of Budget Responsibility, there in the UK, they're running a WordPress site, and they're running the very popular Download Monitor plugin. Let me drop this link in the chat if anybody would like to just have this story to take a look at. Basically, they're using the Download Monitor plugin, which is a very popular, I think it's a 1 million plus install plugin in WordPress. And they uploaded a bunch of PDFs to the media library in WordPress, and it had a market sensitive data, like private things that were only going to be announced at a speech that the director for this government office was giving, and they were publicly available. They had a publicly accessible URL, which means that for, I think it was several hours prior to this speech, 40-ish people downloaded these PDFs and had information that others didn't have. So that's a big deal. And it comes down to 2 real issues. It was a misconfiguration of the Download Monitor plugin, and also it was a WP Engine server, and they didn't have any sort of blocking to the WP, the uploads directory, which generally you don't anyway. But people are blaming WP Engine. It's whoever's running this website did not set it up correctly. It was absolutely just, I mean, frankly, malpractice, if you ask me. Nobody really does, but yeah, it's a bad thing. But it's a cautionary tale for any of us who manage websites for clients that are uploading PDFs that have any sort of internal data of any level of sensitivity that they're uploading to their media library, because by default, WordPress makes everything in the media library publicly available. Like, that's what it's for. And furthermore, Google, as long as it's an accessible PDF, meaning that the PDF is actually text and not images, Google will index the content of the PDFs. We learned this lesson the hard way many, many years ago when we had a membership, not a membership. What am I trying to say? It was a nonprofit organization. They had uploaded some stuff into their media library, and it had some internal information. Like, it wasn't the end of the world that it was searchable, but it was searchable, and they didn't want that, obviously. And so we had to learn the hard way about making sure, look, you can't just upload PDFs because they're going to get indexed. WordPress does a great job of making content indexable. And so it's a cautionary tale for us of maybe to have conversations with clients about how appropriate is it to upload internal documents to the media library. And the answer to that question is it's not a good idea unless you have some properly configured download management plugin where it obfuscates that URL and has some sort of requirements in order to be able to access it. So there you go. That's fun. And I see Ben making some comments there in the chat. Ben from the UK. Ben got that, has run into that. So he said the budget was dropped at 12:30 p.m. and Reuters got the information at 11. So an hour and a half. Not the end of the world, but it did have over 40 people access that information prior to it should have been the time when it should have been publicly available. Anyhow, that is delightful. Let's see. Next thing I'll just quickly mention as soon as I find the correct browser tab. The WP awards are out for 2025. Every year the WP Weekly does this survey, and hopefully you voted in the survey for all your popular things. And the winners are out. It's really no surprises here. It's kind of all this. It's the same folks winning, and popular, the top 3 popular ones. But here's your big winners: ACF Pro, the top dynamic data plugin; WooCommerce, the most popular e-commerce tool; the admin bar as the most popular WordPress community; Elementor as the page builder; and Rank Math SEO as the SEO plugin of choice. And there's information here if you just want to go take a look at it. I'll drop the link for this there in the chat. There weren't as many votes this year. There used to be in the thousands. I don't know what happened here. There were 6,000 people voted. So take a look and just see where your favorite thing fell in the list. But that's always a little bit interesting whenever it comes out. All right. One more thing I'll mention. This is, I don't know how many of you have played with this before. Is anyone currently using WhisperFlow? WhisperFlow. This is quite possibly the coolest tool that I've used in quite a while. Yeah, it was mentioned last week. I've been using it for a bit. And if you haven't played with it yet, I would absolutely recommend playing with it. They give you a free trial to check it out. And the thing about it is, like we talked about it last week briefly, and it's sort of like a mashup of the old Dragon Naturally Speaking, if you've been in the Windows world for 8 million years, and a text snippet exploder like TypeDesk or Text Expander. And it is, I'm using it more and more, and I'm finding it incredibly powerful. So, for example, I've got a macro set up with my TypeDesk, which is like a text macro. Like if I do this OHQ, it explodes ask an office hour questions. So that's how I drop stuff in the chat really easily. Or if we want to do the link bundle, it's just /links, and here's that link bundle you see that drops into the chat. But you can also do this, and on Mac, it's super easy. You just hold down the function key, and I can say, let me remember what I set up for that, because I just set these up. Oh, yeah. So ask a question. And that didn't work. Oh, ask your question. And it exploded the macro. Or I can say link bundle, and it explodes out all the information. See, this is where it gets really cool. So there's 2 things about this WhisperFlow that I find incredibly useful. The first is these macros. So think about all the things you could put in here and just explode, your meeting link, your email address, your standard sign off on your emails, etc. Just do that with voice. Now, the second thing that's really amazing is the way it does dictation. I don't know how it does it so quickly. There's magic involved, but it's running it through some sort of an AI processor, some kind of magic. And it, how can I say this? It eliminates verbal pauses. If you change your mind midway through, like they do this in the demo, so I'll do it as well. Hey, let's meet today at 2:00 at Starbucks for a quick meeting. Actually, let's change that to 1 p.m. at Dunkin' Donuts. And right here, see, it fixed it. Like it forgot the first part before I changed it and put the right thing in. And so it's just, I don't know how it's doing this or what magic is involved, but it works incredibly well. It also has a phone app for iOS and Android where, like I've been using dictation on my iPhone for years, and it's 80% correct. And I'm at the point where, I'll send a quick dictation message to my kids, a text message or whatever. And, there will be some things that are not correct, But like if you read it out loud, you can phonetically figure out what I was trying to say. And I just don't care anymore. Like I just send those incorrect messages. With Whisperflow, there aren't any of those weird type, like uh, um, phonetical misdictations. It just fixes it. And as you use it a little bit, like if you go back and correct some of the stuff that it dictated, it will learn from that and learn that, this is the way this person's name is spelled, or this is the name of this tool that you use, or et cetera. So I've been using the free, and I'm going to pay for the pro. It's $12 per user per month, and I think I will use this way more than $12 a month worth. I'm starting to use it everywhere. Like I used it just the other day on, as we're building sites now in Beaver Builder, there's a way now you can label different rows and columns with just, so when you open it up in the outline view, you can easily see what you're looking at. Anyway, it's so much easier with dictation. So instead of having to go and click and then go here and then go down to the keyboard and type a thing and then save it, I can just keep my mouse over here and dictate the name of the label and change, 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 change. It's so easy. There's so much, things go so much quicker. So anyway, I would recommend that you try it. So you get 2,000 words a week free, which is a lot, actually. And just play with it and see. It is HIPAA ready. I mean, I'm not sure what HIPAA ready means. They do have some data protection involved in this, right? So, be careful, obviously, about storing super sensitive information. I wouldn't put passwords in here, for example, but I might put license keys for plugins. I mean, that's sensitive, but it's not like national security sensitive. I might do that. I don't know. But they have some level of privacy, et cetera. And gosh, it's incredibly, it can really boost your productivity. I've found that to be the case. So anyway, if you haven't tried this yet, try it. Oh, and for those of you asking about the little snippets in the app, it's got one of the screens. I'm not going to drag mine over because it does have some things that I don't want to show on the screen. But you just define them. Like if I say this, then you explode this. So it's all set up there. And so I'm in the process of moving over all of my type desk snippets into Flow so that it just works. Yeah, I'm finding it pretty darn cool. So I'm going to go over here in the chat and say link bundle. And there's our links. It's certainly easier for me in these live streams to use that rather than typing something. So anyway, give it a try. See what you think. Let's do one more quick thing. I do want to make this note before we get into questions. In the link bundle, I just dropped into the chat. The very first link is register for upcoming live streams. That takes you to this link tree. And we now have live streams scheduled through the end of January 2026. So take a look at this and register for any of these that you're interested in. The most important thing that I need to tell you, and please don't sleep on this one, the office hours Zoom link is changing for 2026. We're switching to a new Zoom account, which means you have to re-register for live streams, the office hour recurring live stream for the January one. You can do this now. It won't mess up your live streams through the end of the year with office hours, but go ahead right now and sign up right here. Click here and it will give you the link to register for the office hours that start in January. So make sure you re-register for that one. And then the rest of them are just one-offs. So right here, every Thursday in 2026, sorry, this is the current one. This is the new one. So make sure this is the one you're already registered for because you're here. This is the one you want to register for 2026. So we have a full slate of live streams coming up in January as well. And of course, we do have on Tuesday the part 2 of creating your starter site. And that's going to be a fun one. I'm just noticing here, Katie, I think we lost our starter site sign up in case anybody wanted to grab that one. But that's out there. Oh, and how do you get to that page? You go to the link bundle, which I have just dropped in here into the chat. It is the very first link, upcoming.myagencysuccess.com, and that'll forward you to this link app. Oh, the starter site is the third link down. Oh, right there. I am also blind. There you go. So if you haven't signed up for Tuesday's live stream, part 2 of customizing your starter site, that's going to be a fun one for us to get into. Okay, well, let's get into some questions now. If you have a question to ask that you haven't asked yet, you may do so at the link that is in the chat. And we currently have 10 questions in the list. So many questions. That's great. All right, we'll get started today with a question from Class. Class, are you here today? I believe so. All right. Class's question, migrating to a VPS with LiteSpeed. So you're starting the process of migrating websites from your old VPS to the new one at hosting.com with LiteSpeed. Awesome. Class, you're going to be so happy with how fast this VPS is at hosting.com. Several folks I've heard from just even recently about moving from another host into a VPS or a VDS at hosting.com, and the speed difference is just astounding. Like we moved from an A2 server, which was fast, into the new hosting.com architecture a couple months back. It is incredibly fast. Anyway, so that's going to require some changes from the site. So you're not using, you had some old caching plugin, right? You're going to need to install a new caching plugin. Can you walk through the setup? So that's something I hesitate to do on office hours class because there are just so many. This really ought to be its own live stream, to be honest. What I'll do is, let's see, what can I show you? I'll just click through the pages, okay? And you can go back on the recording when it comes up. And so I'm going to do this kind of quickly just to move things along. So here's the deal. You're using Cloudflare. And we can really do this with Cloudflare as the focus. So for Cloudflare focus things, you're not going to want to use QuickCloud. QuickCloud's pretty cool, but it requires name servers to be set. So we can't use QuickCloud. You're going to want to make sure your server IP is correct in here on the general setting. And then we're going to move down to just a couple of things here under cache. It depends on really, do you want to use an object cache or not? Hosting.com has a whole doc on all of these other little settings. But I would recommend that you use an object cache, particularly because you can cache the WP admin area here. But to do that, you have to create just a prefill. You do have to create a password and a port number in cPanel, and hosting.com support can walk you through how to do that. It does help to speed things up to use a Redis object cache. So let's see. Here's the big part with Cloudflare. You're going to want to go here to the Cloudflare tab, and you're going to need to create an API key. So it gives you the link right here that takes you out to Cloudflare where you can create an API key for this site. And when you drop in the API key and the domain name, you don't have to fill the email address. Make sure that it connects up. So you turn the Cloudflare API on, you turn Cloudflare cache on, and when you save the changes and refresh the page, you ought to see a Cloudflare domain and zone show up right here. The reason that's important is whenever the LiteSpeed cache plugin detects a change on the site, like you update a page or you publish a post or you update plugins or whatever, it's going to go out and flush the Cloudflare cache too. Because as you know, Cloudflare is storing, it's got its own little CDN, and your HTML's out there, your JavaScript is out there. We need to flush all of that so everything is the same. And it's this page at CDN and Cloudflare where this connection happens. So this is the most critical place. Does that help, class? And I'm blowing through this for the sake of time today. It's probably something we need to do a full live stream on. Okay. As far as some of these other settings, I'll just mention quickly. The only thing I do with CSS is minify. Don't do any of this other stuff. In the JavaScript settings, all we do is minify and defer. These combine ones goof things up. There's problems there, particularly if you're using any sort of block or page builder. It can really mess things up. So on and deferred, and that's really all we do. Um, let's see. A question back a minute ago in the chat was when you do the Phoebe says hosting.com is powered by rocket.net. Let me correct just a quick misunderstanding there. The managed WordPress hosting is powered by rocket.net. So when you go right here to let's see, manage hosting for WordPress. No, here, hosting for WordPress. This is powered by rocket.net. What Paul is talking about is a managed VPS right here. So this is a standard cPanel server, and you do need to do some LiteSpeed plugin configuration. If you're using the managed WordPress hosting by rocket.net, you don't have to worry about any of that. They just take care of it for you. So does that help, Phoebe? Good. So I want to make sure that it can be confusing depending on which flavor of WordPress hosting you're on. Both the VDS option and VPS VDS and the managed hosting by rocket.net, both of them are super, like they're great for what they're designed for. And we've gone through the differences in the past. So yeah, just make sure you know which one's best for you. And if you want, if you have a question, my recommendation is a Talk to Mike demo. And let me find that information. That is for anybody in the agency success program. You'll get access if you sign up and contact Mike Demo. You will be able to. He'll help you think through what is the best option for you, and you can do that right here. If you want to click a quick screen grab or just grab that QR code. If you're interested at all about moving into hosting.com's offerings, Mike is the guy to talk to. He has an agency background. He can answer all your technical questions, and he'll make the recommendation that's going to work best for you. And several of you have worked with Mike, and he's great. He knows his stuff. Okie dokie. Well, thank you for that, class. Let us move to the next question, which is from Jamie. Okay. Jamie has a Google business profile question. So Jamie says, I have a client for whom I'm trying to improve and optimize her social media profiles and website for organic conversions. Long story, but she's very non-tech savvy. Before I met her, she got sold a bunch of trashy web design services and bought into many med spa sales rep offerings. Okay. How many of you folks have had clients come to you and they've just been absolutely taken to town by a fast-talking digital marketing sales rep that sold them a bill of goods that did absolutely nothing for them? There are so many of these people out there, and it's really sad how they are perfectly fine with taking advantage of people's lack of understanding in this area. Anyway, so here's the question. I have access to her Google business profile and I can update it as needed. So there's the Google business profile. Let's just open it. And we have Revive and Retreat Med Spa outside of Nashville in Lebanon. Very nice. Okay. So, however, using a non-Google search engine, there's another profile and we're not able to claim this listing or manage it. It is the DuckDuckGo profile. So yes, for the 8 people on the internet that use DuckDuckGo, I'm just kidding. There's more than that, like 12. There's the Revive here. They have these Google business profile-ish listings over here. And you are correct, Jamie. You can't take control of this. So if you've been trying to find a way to do it and haven't been able to do it, yeah, there's a reason for that. Okay, so there's a lot of DuckDuckGo users. I'm sorry. That's anyway. So what they do, notice here, they scrape this information from Apple and from Yelp and from other sources. And so if you just have to make sure your information is correct on all these other places. They scrape it. They don't give you access to change it. It's not great. It's not as good as a Google business profile, but they're not trying to run a full directory service like Google business profiles is. Yeah, this is non-paid. This is like they just do this for businesses. Yeah. So yeah, wish I had a better answer for you, but that's the way DuckDuckGo does things. All right. Next up in the list is Stacy. Hey, Stacy. Oh dear. Okay, this ought to be good. A chill runs up my spine as I say, syncing inventory with WooCommerce. I have a client with a WooCommerce store who also sells in a physical shop and on Etsy. Breathing deeply to alleviate anxiety. We've been using SumTracker for several years and it's worked okay. However, SumTracker just sent a notification they are dropping support for WooCommerce. Weird. Why would they do? Anyway, focusing on Shopify, effective 30 January. I used to use one SaaS years ago for another client, but it was bought by Intuit, and I think it only works with syncing through QuickBooks. Any other solution for inventory syncing? Okay, so my first question is about this physical shop, Stacy. What POS are they running internally, like in-house? Is it some POS, or how are they doing actual in-person sales? Because that's really going to be the key to this. They don't sync inventory with the physical store, just Woo and Etsy. Oh, okay. Then that makes it a lot easier. So they don't care about the inventory in the physical store. It's really just online inventory. Okay. So that just got a lot easier. So WooCommerce has a bridge built for this. Hang on a minute. Let's see. Extensions and Etsy. Yeah, so there's a couple of these here that you'll see. Um, I can't recommend any of these personally because I haven't used them, but I would take a look at some of these. WooCommerce a while back added support for multi-channel sales. So you can connect it to Amazon, to Etsy, to whatever. And you can manage inventory at WooCommerce. The trick here is there needs to be a single source, who is the source of truth for the inventory? Like that number has to live somewhere and then sync elsewhere. And because you're syncing with Etsy, which is a proprietary platform, that the source of truth for inventory needs to be at WooCommerce. And so all you then need is a bridge to connect the two. And so something like these is a good option. I haven't used either of these. Has anybody done this actually with a client before? And can you recommend a specific product for Stacy? These are going to be, one of these is going to be the way to go. So $179 a year. It's going to be that cost. Like it's going to be expensive. So this ought to do exactly what you want it to do. If you had to sync it, if the physical store is involved, and honestly, Stacy, you might want to talk to them about that and just see if, are they going to ever want to bring in physical store inventory? If they are, you need to just go ahead and factor that into this. If you're going to change it, you might as well work all that in. And that's where a SaaS needs to come into play as the source of truth. So the SaaS becomes the place where inventory is managed, which then syncs with POS, with Woo, and with Etsy. But if they legitimately don't care and they're always just want to keep those separate, this is a pretty inexpensive solution to get it done. So does that help, Stacy? Yeah, these sorts of things. I mean, basic WooCommerce is, I think, pretty darn easy and reliable. When you start doing synchronization of anything is when, and I'll pause here and take a quick rabbit trail. There are plugins out there, for example, that can sync WooCommerce to things like QuickBooks and, fill in the blank, your accounting system here. There are plugins that can do that. I cannot recommend more highly to you not to try to use a plugin for this. The plugins will be cheaper, but guess who gets to maintain that if there's a problem or fix it when there's a problem? It's going to be you. And plugin support is not going to be super helpful when it comes to what's this deal with QuickBooks and WooCommerce and whatever. They're not going to be super helpful. It is much better to recommend to your client to do this at a SaaS level. So like MyWorks is a good one, that sort of thing, but shift the blame, if you will, over to a SaaS product that the client is paying for monthly, because you may never have to get into their support or have a problem. But if you do not want to be the one trying to figure that out, because it is a nightmare. Shift over to something like MyWorks. There's a bunch of other ones that are SaaS products. and let their support, like that's what they're built for. They're more expensive, but you do not want to be the one trying to deal with those issues. Okay. Next up is Ben. All right, Ben B. Anyone else seen a login CSS issue using the Admin and Site Enhancements Pro plugin since the WordPress update with Solid Security Pro? Wow, that is a really long set of dependencies. Okay, so a login CSS issue with ASE Pro and Solid Security after WordPress 6.9. Okay, yes. Okay, so you've had to add this in the customizer. So is the deal that the passwordless login feature just isn't showing, Ben? That's weird. Oh, you can't click the login button. That sounds like a Solid Security problem. I would reach out to them. That is awfully weird. Oh, paste this CSS in the chat. I can do that. Or if you were using Text Expander, as I recommended last week, you could just go bloop and you would have it. Sort of. Uh-oh. All right. Anyway, all righty. So Ben, oh, you've done support tickets. I would suggest, Ben, that it's probably a Solid Security issue. If they're, well, let me ask you this: if you deactivate ASE Pro, does the problem go away? I'm going to assume that it does. And if deactivating ASE Pro, yeah, so deactivate ASE Pro and see if the problem goes away. That will let you know whether it's an ASE issue or a Solid Security issue. If the plugin, if the ASE Pro is causing it not to work, their support. If it's still happening after you deactivate it, it's Solid Security support. So good luck with that. I have not noticed it. All right, next up is also Ben. Oh, this looks interesting. What are you advising clients on how to create blog posts with ChatGPT? Having a potential client ask why the content is deindexed and the content is obviously done by AI and has been confirmed. I'm looking to recommend voice dictation to get a more authentic blog post, as well as all the blog post basics in SEO. Okay, so I would be very, very careful with just taking anything out of AI and just slapping it up on the web. That's what most people are doing. Not most, I don't know. A lot of folks are doing this who, they just want to get something done and they post it up there and whatever. And there could be inaccuracies. It may not be in your voice. It could be weird. It could be repeating itself over and over again. So I think AI content, I've done live streams about this. I'm a proponent of AI content, but it needs to be directed, like not just generic AI content. Write me an 800-word blog post about fill in the blank topic. That's, garbage. It's going to give you not great content. But if you direct it ahead of time, give it a bunch of context, edit it afterwards, that can produce some really decent content. Particularly if you approach the content generation process by either giving it an outline of points you want it to make or having a process where you're talking through what points should I make and what do you suggest and all this, and then coming up with a basic flow of the article, then asking it to generate. That can also work really well. My question to you is, was the content de-indexed because it was AI content? And if that's the case, I'd be interested in seeing that because I haven't heard of that happening a lot. It's really, I've said this before, there are AI content detectors out there, but none of them are reliable. OpenAI even removed their own AI content generator because it wasn't reliable. So yeah, I don't know. That's an odd thing. I would need to know more about how this happened. But if you're looking for a recommendation, then AI is your writing assistant. It is not your writer. And there's a big difference between those two things. As a writing assistant, it can go do research for you. It can help you think through, what you ought to be talking about. It could even generate a draft but you really need to go back through and polish that and make sure that the information is correct. So Ben, what is there something else we need to know here? Ben says you can see it in Google Search Console where the URL was scanned and chosen not to index because the content's not good enough. Okay, interesting. And that means it's just AI slop that they've thrown out there. So yeah, use it. Use AI as a a writing assistant, but not a writing like the writer. So that's what I would do. Using voice mode is it can be a really good tool. Like if your client wants to generate blog posts using the ChatGPT app, for example, and talking through things, brainstorming, super helpful. And a lot of people are going to interact with the tool better with voice than they are typing. So yeah, do that, and then let it come up with an outline that you can then think through. But it has to be an involved process between you, the user, and the AI tool to generate any kind of content. All right, great question. All right, next in the list is Marco. Marco, are you here? I don't see Marco in the chat, but we will endeavor to answer the question. Marco says, all my projects are highly customized, so I need a very minimal starter theme. Do you have any suggestions? Yeah. So Marco, if you're watching this on the replay, I would suggest that you go back to the starter site live stream, which you can get to at replays.myagencysuccess.com. That takes you to the YouTube playlist, and right here you'll see the starter site part 1. That may have prompted your question, but in that document that I gave out in that live stream, I give some theme recommendations for whether you need a canvas theme, like are you using blocks to build, or a page builder. Then I would suggest something like GeneratePress or Cadence or Bricks. If you're really wanting a full site editing theme, a block theme, then something like Ollie or Powder, which is a new one by Brian Gardner, the creator of Genesis a million years ago. There are a few good ones there, but all those recommendations are there in that guide. And any of those themes are going to be sort of a blank canvas that lets you do whatever you want to do and doesn't get in your way. So hopefully that is helpful. Thanks for that question, Marco. Next up is Doris. Doris says, ergonomic equipment, standing desks, etc. I am sitting too much. What are your recommendations for standing desks and other healthy practices? Yeah, I recommend a standing desk for sure. So I have a standing desk. I'm standing at this moment. And generally, as far as healthy practices, I try, whenever I have a Zoom call, I try to stand. So there's at least a few times a day where I'm standing up in a call. Not always, but most of the time when I'm on a Zoom call, I stand. I don't know. It also helps keep me more engaged in the conversation for whatever reason. So just as a practice, I think it's helpful. Now, as far as ergonomic equipment, it depends on what you're looking for, right? There's really good deals now on standing desks. They're not as expensive as they used to be. The one I used was actually just a pair of legs that I bought. You can buy the legs alone, and I just went out to a home supply clearinghouse here in the city and got a couple of really nice acacia wood countertops and put them on top of these legs as the desktop. And I love this. I've had it for several years now. So that is, it's a great thing to do. You can also, of course, just buy them already made, put together, ready to go. Oh yeah. So Shanta's mentioning vertical mouse. I totally agree. I've been using this vertical mouse for a couple of years now. This is a Logitech Lift, and it lets you just hold it like this. It's like you're shaking hands. And I've had for years really bad carpal tunnel, and doing this has actually, I don't notice it as much. It's a much healthier position to keep your hand in. Yeah. So anybody else? I see some other recommendations coming in. Class says his standing desk is a dining room table with a 2x4 riser. I love it. Oh, that's so funny. Dave, what is the name of which one are we talking about, Dave? The name of what? Melanie suggests a footrest. Yeah, if you are, yes. And I'll tell you something, a good office chair can make all the difference. The mouse is a Logitech Lift, Lift. Great mouse. Um, the That's so funny. So a great chair makes all the difference. Uh, and yeah, Paul, I have a Herman Miller chair as well. I bought it probably 10 years ago. Like many people, I was in this cycle of every 2 to 3 years, I'd buy a new office chair because I had totally flattened the cushion of of the previous one. Because these $200 or $300 Office Depot type chairs, they just don't. They're not built to last. And so what I realized was, I was reading about it. I have a Herman Miller Aeron, Aeron, I think is how it's spelled. They're like the classic office chair that you see, like the mesh back and so forth. I read that they just last a lot longer, and so I bought this one several years ago. I think I paid $800, lightly used on eBay. It had all the little attachments on it and everything, and it's still, honestly, it's as good as the day I bought it. And I mean, I would have paid far more than that recycling cheap office chairs and not having as good good of a supportive chair. Really, really good stuff. So a good chair that you pay several $100s for, totally worth it. Yeah. Okie dokie. Anyway, great question, Doris. Thanks for bringing that up. Next up in the list is Jamie. We're down to 3 questions in the list. We might have time for a couple of more. So the link to ask questions is there in the chat if you have a question you haven't asked yet. All right, Jamie, I've seen some kerfluffles on social media about the Bricks update hijacking core framework and/or ACSS features. Interesting. A little over my head. Can anyone clue a clueless girl in? I am not a Bricks user and I'm not plugged into that world, unfortunately, Jamie. I have seen some issues with people complaining about the new WordPress update messing up some CSS, but that just seems to be caching issues. Um, but yeah, has anybody seen this issue? I do not know. So Jamie, I'm assuming you're plugged into all the social media groups. ACSS is called Automatic CSS. It's a product from Kevin Geary that's currently the focus of a trademark conversation between him and Automatic. So anyway, yes, I don't have any direct information about that, unfortunately. All right, next up in the list is Shanta. Oh, pausing for a minute. Melanie, thank you. The new WordPress update did not remove WP Mail, but it changed the way it's being handled internally to a better, more reliable system. And on some old hosts, it broke stuff. If you're on quality hosting, or if you have, I mean, what we've recommended for years, some sort of a transactional email solution, you wouldn't have had an issue. It's generally on really old, low quality hosting that this email issue was a problem. Like, and the thing is, they knew they were going to break it. Like, this was a planned breakage to update something that works better. And it's honestly, at that point, it's the responsibility of the host running low quality garbage to reach out to their people and let them know that this is happening because they haven't updated their stuff. I mean, yeah. Okay, Shanta. Okay, here's the dreaded Gmail question. I have been trying to build a filter in Gmail. The search advanced will locate the emails I want, but when I go to build the filter, it apparently cannot locate any of the items that match the filter. Oh, also apply filter to 0 matching conversations. The filters would be on the sender, PandaDoc, and a text in the subject text anywhere. Is it particular text, Shanta, in the subject? Work better is anywhere rather than in the subject line. Okay. Actions, add X label mark red. Yeah. Okay. Additionally, there's one further filter that I need to run on this where there is an additional text and forward to a particular recipient, but I can't get the more general filter to work. Wow. Okay. Well, you asked if you could ask a Gmail question, and you certainly did. And I have no idea what this answer could be, because it sounds like you've tried everything that I would try. Do we have any Gmail ninjas in the chat today that have a suggestion for Shanta about this? I mean, it's probably some little teeny thing, Shanta, that's causing this. But the what's really making me think here is you build the filter or the search query and it locates the correct emails, but you can't turn it into a filter. That's where it's weird. Shanta, is this a Google Workspace? I mean, have you tried asking Google Workspace support? Because this ought to work. I mean, if the search works, the filter should work. So, I mean, the next steps I would do here would be to to reach out to support, but also thoroughly describe the entire situation to your favorite AI tool of choice and see what it comes up for you. I mean, it's weird because if a search query gives you the emails you want, it should just be the same filter, right? But yeah, give your favorite AI tool all of this context, screenshots, everything, and see what it gives you. I'm stumped. This is something I probably have to wade into to a high level of depth, coming up to my nose or something, to really be able to offer any kind of intelligent answer. All righty. Next up in the list, also Shanta. All right. Shanta says, right now we're using PandaDoc for proposals. You spoke already about potentially moving to Fluent CRM, etc. If you need to write proposals, not so much web contracts, is there something in Fluent environment that would do that, or do we need something else? Yeah, so the Fluent CRM is not going to manage a sales process. I mean, you could tag people and so forth, and you could use an external tool like Zapier or Bit integrations or Sure triggers or something like that to tag based on responses from PandaDoc, but it's not going to do I don't believe it offers any kind of signing process. Now, what you might be able to do, Shanta, is it's not going to get you what you want. There might be a way, you have to really think on this. There might be a way to integrate Fluent Forms to do this, but I don't think I would want to try to run a document signing system through WordPress. That needs to be a SaaS. But if it was Fluent Forms and they just had to sign something simple, then that would definitely, you could just add a tag based on the form submission. Like those things work really well together without any outside integration. But at this point, if you're using PandaDoc to track signings, you could do that with some external automation tool. See, the thing, unless the world you're in requires advanced authentication, like, somebody's buying a home and they need to verify one of these is your correct address from 8 years ago. Pick it, that sort of thing. Which car did you own 10 years ago? That level of authentication, then any basic signing system is going to work, because to be a legally e-signed document, you just need the IP address, date, time of the user, and that can be backtracked if need be. And that's really all you need. Like an agreement and some sort of IP-based authentication for who actually signed this is all that's needed for an e-signature to be legal. So yeah, there's a bunch of them out there. PandaDoc, Billy's suggesting Breeze in the chat. They're all basically the same. Um, yeah. So where it could get tricky is what is creating the signing document in your document signing tool, and does that need to be automated? If so, that's where it gets tricky, and you'll need something that plays well with others, where you can pass those variables into your signing system. Yeah. So I don't know, there's a million signing tools out there. And you'll need to, unfortunately, you just got to investigate those based on your requirements. Yeah. Anybody have specific recommendations for Shanta about this? But again, if you're using a tool that like Fluent CRM is going to play well with an integrator like Zapier or whatever, and also, um, your signing tool needs to do that as well. And if so, you can connect all those things. Like you could easily set it where there's a Fluent form on the site that creates a customer in your CRM, which then fires off a generated document in your signing system with that contacts information, for example. Um, I th- I've not used PandaDoc. I think it will respond to that. Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck on that, Shanta. All right. Next up is Paul. Hey, Paul. See, I always get worried when Paul asks a question at the end of a live stream because it's going to be something like this. What is your favorite flavor of cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory? Inquiring minds want to know, and it better not be pumpkin spice. Paul, this may surprise you, but I don't like the Cheesecake Factory. I've been there once in my entire life. It's not my favorite experience. So I don't have a response. And I can't imagine how nasty pumpkin spice cheesecake would be. I don't know. So just for the sake of Paul's inquiring mind, feel free to drop your favorite flavor of cheesecake right there in the chat. Jamie, right? The Cheesecake Menu Factory, it's like, unfolding a map from the 1970s with like 58 panes to try to get overwhelm. Yeah. So there you go. All right. One more question in the list. This one is from Billy. Ooh, here we go. Billy, should I be amending robots.txt to add allowance or denial of AI bots? What a great question. So there's a couple of different ways, like there's two levels to answering this question. The first is, should you be denying AI bots? The second layer is robots.txt the place to do that? Okay, so let's take this at the first level, which is, should you be allowing or denying AI bots? And Billy, the answer to that question is, what is the goal of this website? If I would say in most cases, you want AI bots to be on your site. You just do. Because if you start denying AI bots, these AI bots are the future of SEO. As much as I hate them, they are the future of SEO. And if you turn off all access to AI bots, for example, you're not going to show up in any of those Google AI overviews. And as much as I hate what that's currently doing to search because it's dropping organic traffic, it's still the first thing people see. So at this point, we have to play the game. So we don't, well, I'll just say it this way. We do not have any clients, and all the websites and clients that we work for, none of them block AI bots. The only time I would say block AI bots is if you are making your living from your content. And even then, it's a question mark. Like, are you, like, is your content the thing that you're selling? In other words, I want people to come to the site because there's display advertisement or something like that. If your content is the means to make a sale, like I'm a landscape engineer and I am writing a bunch of content so people find me on the internet, Well, my content is not what I'm selling. It's helping me sell the thing I'm selling. You should absolutely allow AI bots on the site if that's the content strategy. So does that part make sense? Yeah. So don't, if you block AI bots currently in the current world of AI search, you are shooting yourself in the foot. You will see your traffic plummet even more than it may be now. Number two, is robots.txt the place to do that? No, because a lot of AI bots don't even respect robots.txt. And you should you should probably not be generating a physical robots.txt file anyway if you're in WordPress, because your your SEO plugin ought to be doing that for you. The better way, like the way that probably by next year, there'll be more of a standard to this, but it's the LLMs.txt. And you can Google this and learn more about LLMs.txt. It's becoming a sort of a standard on how you want AI bots to interact with your website. But again, it's just a suggestion to them. They don't have to follow it. If you truly want to block AI bots, it needs to be done at the network level, like at Cloudflare. And Cloudflare has a really simple toggle where you can just block everybody. They're really building a platform around that. So don't do it in the robots.txt. If you do want to block AI bots, do it at Cloudflare or some other tool that filters it out before it even gets to your website. So does that help, Billy? My short answer is don't do it. All right. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of the questions, and it is straight up 2:00 here where I'm located. Thanks for hanging out with me for the last hour. Lots of things, many topics over the last hour. I appreciate all the great questions as always. We're back Tuesday for part 2 of building your starter site. We'll be looking at a plugin stack for your starter site, as well as building an MU plugin with lots of really cool code snippets and how that can work. So that's coming up Tuesday at 1:00 Central Time. And of course, next week, I'm back on Thursday for office hours as usual. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next week on Agency Success here at hosting.com, where we go further together.